Hello everyone, this is Eddie, and I would like to welcome you to this review of question 2 of the California bar exam that was administered in February of 2018. And before I start, I want to make 2 points. Number one, I want to discuss the use of strict scrutiny as it applies to the religious clauses on the bar exam. And the second point is this: the actual use of strict scrutiny in determining the rule of law in actual court cases. So let's talk about the first point here. So on the bar exam, if you use strict scrutiny, it is very likely that you will earn points when you discuss the religious clauses of the First Amendment. And of course, that is the Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. Now, for the purposes of this review, I am not going to discuss strict scrutiny. Why? Because it is too broad. In other words, where the Establishment Clause applies or where the Free Exercise Clause applies, you could have used strict scrutiny. So if you were organized in your analysis and you did a great analysis, it is very likely that you could receive points there. The second point I want to make is this: that the use of strict scrutiny is not likely to be used in actual cases that involve the religious clauses. So what happens most of the time is that the court will use the lemon test to discuss the Establishment Clause. And very few times a challenge based on strict scrutiny may further arise. Let's look at an example here. For the 10 Commandments case at the Supreme Court level, and that would be Van Orden versus Perry, the lemon test was not even used. Rather, the court looked at historical elements and whether the display at issue was passive. In other words, your analysis is extremely important here at the bar exam level. It's more important than a specific format that involves a certain test. And this is another reason as to why I will not discuss strict scrutiny here. Let's begin the discussion. Let's now go to question 1. And here the question reads: what challenges under the United States Constitution, if any, could Ivan reasonably raise to the dining hall quotations, and what is the likely outcome discussed? And we are talking about the 3 quotations from the 10 Commandments that are located in the dining hall. So for this, you can use the Establishment Clause, and that pretty much prohibits the government from establishing a religion. And of course, many of you use the lemon test. I think that is suitable here. Now let's go through the 3 elements. The first one, it must be secular in purpose. I think the person there can make a great argument. And number 2, there must be no excessive entanglement. Now consider the government's involvement. For example, does the government have to make a determination? What is and what is not part of the religion? Are there any payments? And here you could have said that the quotations do not require the jail to make any type of religious determinations, because the quotations are in view of all the inmates regardless of religion. I think the heavier discussion here dealt with the third prong. What is at issue here must not advance nor hinder religion. And here you could have gone either way, because you can make great arguments for both sides. For example, Ivan will say that a religion is indeed advanced, and that the jail is advancing a religion other than his. And of course, the quotations are displayed prominently. And also, they are displayed in the dining hall where all the prisoners must eat. And as far as the prison is concerned, you can also make great arguments. You can say that no one is forced to recite or even to read the quotations. They are merely displayed. So I will not state a conclusion here, because again, your analysis is more important than the actual conclusion. Now let's go on to question number 2. And that question reads, what challenges under the United States Constitution, if any, could Ivan reasonably raise to the denial of his request for the book and the tea? And what is the likely outcome? And again, I am not going to discuss strict scrutiny here, because that is pretty broad, as it can apply in many different ways. Now let's discuss the book first. And I'm going to talk about equal protection. Now the rule there is that no state shall deny to any person the equal protection of the law. So in other words, the law shall give equal protection to all of those that are similarly situated. So it must first be determined the type of classification that Ivan falls under. And here he is an inmate. And also, is there discrimination? And the answer is yes, because only the Bible and the Quran's literature is offered. Now, let's go on to the standard of review. And here we are going to apply rational basis, because of course we're talking about an inmate. And for this type of test, the government needs to show that the challenge classification is rationally related to a legitimate state interest. And of course, you guys already know that for these type of classifications, the government usually wins. So here, Ivan is an inmate again, and the jail is going to argue that the book and the religion encourages illegal drug use. And what's Ivan going to say? He's going to say that it's for religious purposes. And I think that argument is going to be weak here, and I think that the county jail is going to prevail. Let's now go to part B of the question, where Ivan was denied his request for the tea. And here we're going to use the free exercise clause. Now, under the First Amendment, the government may not interfere with the free exercise of religion. However, a law of general applicability which merely incidentally burdens a religious practice will be held to be valid. And what does that even mean? It means that if the law applies to everyone, and then it is neutral, and then it's going to be a valid law. And think about the case involving peyote. Now distinguish that from a situation where a certain religion, a certain practice is targeted, and there it is not going to be neutral action on the part of the government. And for that, think about the animal sacrifice case where the city of Hialeah targeted a specific religion. And because that specific targeting occurred, and then the court said that the government regulation was invalid. Now let's talk about how these rules apply to the T. So what is the law? And does the law apply to all? Now if the law applies to all, and then it's going to be neutral. And if that is the case, then it's going to be a valid regulation. So here Ivan has a request to have the hallucinogenic Sacramento tea served to him. And the facts do state that it is an illegal drug, and I think there's certain stipulation there that is implied. So what is the law? Here it is, that illegal drugs are prohibited in the jail. And does it apply to all? And the answer is yes, it applies to all inmates regardless of the religion they are part of. So it is probably valid. And the conclusion there, you can say that Ivan will probably not succeed in his request for the tea. So that concludes the review of question number 2. I wish you all the best. The review of question number 3 is coming soon. Thank you for tuning in. Until soon.